What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over some tips to hopefully help you get OXR Rank S Plus in Fortnite Chapter 6 Season 4. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, comment down below if you have been able to get S Plus yet this season, and if you guys would like to use my code in the item shop, it is EvolveJake, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So to get S Plus, you're just going to need to get enough points throughout the course of the game. This season, there is no points for surviving storm circles, and so it typically is much more difficult for most players to rank up this season because you're going to need to eliminate enemies and you're going to need to eliminate bugs for a majority of your points, and that's where we're going to start. If you are intentionally trying to get S plus and that is a goal of yours, I would highly recommend landing at one of the new boss like queen medallion POIs, because you will be able to fight the queen, which will give you a decent amount of points. But there's also typically a lot of enemy players that will also land in this area, and that's going to be, a good start to OXR points. You'll get points for the other players you eliminate, and these areas being hotly contested means there should be several enemies for you to eliminate in the early game and get points off of. You will also get points for the hives and stashes you destroy, as well as the bugs and the boss, obviously. I believe the queen gives 650 hero points when she's eliminated. So by the time you've eliminated her, eliminated the enemies in the area and cleared them, as well as the bugs and the hives, usually after doing this, you will be at A tier or more. I feel like it's incredibly infrequent that I land here, get the medallion, and I'm not already A tier. And this will allow you to open up the exotic bunkers, which not only can have good loot inside, but you will get 400 points for being the person that opens the bunker. And it's not like super hard to get to A tier, but I feel like the people who are able to get to A tier the fastest in the game and will have first dibs on these bunkers are going to be the people who get the medallion boss POIs. So not only do you, start with a lot of points because of like everything you did in the early game, but it allows you to get first dibs on getting those points in the mid game for the exotic bunkers, as well as just the loot inside, which is obviously going to make your game easier. So after I've cleared the medallion POI, I typically want to go for the exotic bunkers afterwards. And if possible, I would like to get both exotic bunkers, but that doesn't always work out. And it really depends on how the game is going. If I get a bunker that's kind of near me and then a second bunker that's near the other medallion players, I want to go to my bunker and then to their bunker, hopefully, and maybe, open it before them. But if not, like, go there and fight them. Oftentimes, there will be a lot of enemies that go for these bunkers as well, which will give you, more points and elims, which will help your OXR rank. After the exotic bunkers, I try to go for the other medallion players. And like I was saying, I sometimes just meet them at the bunkers. So this is kind of two birds in one stone. And sometimes I don't. So if I haven't yet already encountered the other medallions, this is where I try to go and, seek them out and get the rest of the medallions. Because obviously, when you get these medallions, you're going to have an advantage when it comes to any sort of fight you get in because you have those added abilities. But also, these medallion players tend to be, the more proactive players in the lobby. So if you're able to eliminate them, typically you make the rest of your match easier. Ever since medallions were added and ever since these mid-match objectives were added, I've felt that like once you've taken care of the people who also went for that, the rest of your game is just much easier. It doesn't mean that, it's free from that point and there isn't any good players remaining, but oftentimes the better players in the lobbies are the ones going for the medallions. So once you've taken them out, there might be more threats, but you've taken out typically the most eminent threats. So that's kind of why I go for this at this point. And these medallion players should also be A tier, which is nice because the more you get more points based on the OXR rank of the enemy. If you eliminate a C rank enemy, you get less points than if you eliminate an A rank opponent. So getting these medallions and getting these elims, it just works out. And then after this, I typically try to go to the bug areas and eliminate any other like bugs and hives and stashes that I can find to get those hero points. And this is kind of where my game detours if I'm like actively concerned about getting S plus or if I'm just playing. Because if I'm just playing to play and I don't really care about getting S plus, I wouldn't really be going to destroy bugs in the mid game. I would just be going and looking for other players and stuff. But if you do want to get to S plus, it seems like pretty much required that you kind of have to farm these bugs. This is also why I wanted to deal with the other medallion players. As I said, they're typically the more proactive ones. So I don't want to be caught, third partied while I'm fighting bugs from by them. So after I eliminate the other medallion players, then I typically go for the bug spawns, the purple hives, the stashes with the chests inside, and then just the bugs themselves can give you points as well. If there are any OXR shops under attack, they have like the little crab bug icon on the map. There's 2 per game. If any of those are under attack and you go and clear it out, you will get 400 OXR points for doing so. But I found that this is something that's usually taken care of much earlier in the game. And by the time I've kind of gotten my medallion and gotten my bunker, they're usually already dealt with. So I rarely end up going for those. But if it just so happens that any of those are remaining in your match, you can maybe go for those to get points. But the key difference, like I said, is just going to be farming these bugs, going to all the bugs areas that are in the zone still, and making sure that you've cleared them out to get what points you can from them, as well as just eliminations. The 2 main things you can do is eliminate players and eliminate bugs. So any players obviously take priority for me over the bugs, but once you get into like the mid to late game, the lobby is typically very dead, so you're going to need to farm the bugs. In 4th zone, there will be a loot drop that spawns in, and it drops. This is the rift drop, I guess is what it's called. I don't remember exactly what the game calls it. But it's marked for everybody on the map, and the player to open this gets 500 OXR points, legendary slurp juice, and legendary weapon. So it's good just from like a gameplay perspective to get this so you have that loot. But also getting those 500 OXR points late in the game is nice. And as I said, it's marked for everybody, so oftentimes other players will be going for this. And that will be more eliminations and more elimination points for you to hopefully get to, you know, S+ rank. After this 4th zone drop spawns, though, this is typically kind of the time where, like, you've gotten that source of points. There's not very many enemies left. The zone is small enough to where, like, there might not be any bug areas left. And if there is, you may have already ended up clearing them. So this is where it kind of gets dicey. You just kind of got to go around and look for other players to eliminate. The lobby is typically kind of dead at this point, so your options are really limited. And this is kind of where it's, I wouldn't say random, but it's just going to vary game to game. Some games you'll be able to get it, or maybe you've already gotten it at this point, which is great. But if you didn't get enough eliminations earlier on and the lobby is too dead and there's not enough elims for you to get, you might not be able to get it. Sometimes there may be a flag that you can capture left in the circle at this point, but as I said, in 4th zone, it's kind of small, so really hit or miss. But if there are any flags at this point, this is maybe when I would go for them if I still really needed points. But I don't like going for the flags very much in the early to mid game because they only give 250 points, and the amount of time it takes to capture it, I don't really think is worth going for when there's more to do on the map. Like earlier on in the game, there's more enemies left alive for you to eliminate. There's more bugs for you left alive for you to eliminate. And so I would rather be doing that with my time. And I feel like that's a more efficient use of time. But once, you know, there's not any players left or not many players for you to find, not any bugs left, if there's any flags, then maybe I would capture them. But it's not really something I'd prefer to do earlier in the game, as I said, because there's just better ways to get points. But if you are able to get S+, you will get a drop that contains 1 of 3 mythics and a super soldier boon. So the mythics can be either the Havoc Pump, the Overclocked Pulse Rifle, or the Mythic Scar. Both the Havoc Pump and the Overclocked Pulse Rifle are very good. The Mythic Scar is kind of terrible. I don't know why that's included in this. I would rather just have a legendary version of one of the ARs in the loot pool at the moment. And then you also get the Super Soldier Boon, which at S+ gives you unlimited stamina and faster sprint speed, as well as all the other effects of the OXR Soldier Boons if you haven't gotten them yet. Like if you didn't get your A drop, if you didn't get your S drop and get the boon from that, you'll get those effects when you get S+. So when you get S+, this boon is incredible, and you potentially have an overpowered mythic weapon. But as I kind of already touched on earlier, the lobby is typically so dead at this point that there's less than 5 players remaining. And then even of those 5 players, it's very frequent that none of them are even human and they're just AI bots because, as I've described, if you're trying to get S+, you've probably been running around searching for every possible player for you to eliminate and then also fighting all the bugs. And so most proactive players would have encountered you already at some point anyways because you've been so active throughout the course of the game and you've gotten the medallions which put you on the map. So the benefit of getting S+, while it is large, like it's an advantage to have, typically the game was already won before you get this advantage because it takes so many eliminations to get, and it takes so many, like, I guess, extracurricular activities like eliminating the bugs and stuff to get, that you've probably eliminated all the real players or all the threatening players in the lobby at this point. So it's nice to have, but I don't really think it's worth going for S plus if your goal is to win. Like if you're thinking I'll get S plus and then that will carry me to the win, sure, but you probably already won before you got S plus because of how much it requires you to do and how many eliminations you need to get throughout the course of the game. But that is going to be it for this video. As I said, land at a boss POI, clear it, eliminate all the players you can, go to the exotic bunker, get that loot, eliminate any players you see throughout the course of the match, go for the other medallion players, and farm bugs throughout the course of the game. For me, my main difference if I'm going for S plus versus just playing is that I actually go for bugs throughout the mid game. If I'm just playing, I don't really care to eliminate them. But let me know what you guys thought of this down in the comments below. Let me know if you've been able to get S plus this season. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe if you'd like some more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.